Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the Aha Moments radio show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of enlightened living worldwide with your host, Mariana Cooper, founder of Aha Moments International and AhaMomentsWorld.com. Tune in for the next hour and learn to trust your aha moments to lead the way to live a passionate and purposeful life. And now here's your host, Mari.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Aha Moments radio show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of enlightened living worldwide. I'm Mari, and we are back. We have taken a long hiatus to sort of, do some soul searching and some new programs and just sort life out as we know it. And we are back. Sam actually got married, so congratulations to Sam on his break from the show. And now we are starting our fall season. So we will be doing regular shows, and you'll start to see stuff in your email. So if you're not already on our email notification list, be sure to join us at www.theahaway.com. So TheAHAWAY.com. And also we're going to start to be really active on Facebook, so you can look us up on Facebook.com/Aha Moments Inc. and also, or Aha Moments International, and Mariana M. Cooper. So you can, that's my full name, and you can look us up there as well as on Pinterest under my name, and on Twitter and on Instagram. So you're going to see a lot of big things happening and changing as we go. So I'm very excited about all the new directions. We have a new team here, and we've been working really, 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 really hard over the summer. So on Thursday of this week, we'll be doing a new launch of a special quiz and a new frequency booster toolkit, and I'll talk more about that later on in the show. But just keep your eyes out. We did do some testing of a new quiz and things over the last couple of weeks, and now we've made some changes based on the testing, and off we go. So our big official open the floodgates, here we go, will be on Thursday of this week. All right, so let's get started with today's show, which is, are you maximizing your energetic frequency and how life gets much easier when you do? The very first thing you want to think about when you're thinking about frequency, before you can get to your own frequency, is what's going on in the world around you and the world around us, because energetic frequency can be highly influenced by interplanetary activity. And what I mean by that, we have eclipses and retrograding planets and waxing and waning moons, and we even have void of course moons, which are, there's all sorts of different things that are always going on. Short of being an astrologer, a professional astrologer, if you get too caught up in it, you can kind of have a reason to never leave the house on a daily basis. But so I would just say to keep an eye on it, because you not necessarily need to consult it on a daily basis and drive yourself crazy. However, there are certain times of the year when the energy really is a bit of a mess, and it's kind of like it gets far in the way that if you're trying to work against it or ignore it, you kind of just get slammed. And this last month, the month of August 2017, for those listening to this at a later date, has been, I'm so glad it's over. Oh my gosh, was an insane month, absolutely insane. And we had two eclipses, a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, plus we had a Mercury in retrograde, and on top of that we have Uranus in retrograde. So we have 3 down, 1 to go. We have the 2 eclipses are done, so we're not going to even go into those right now. The Mercury in retrograde is done as of today, which is why we started the show today. And now Uranus stays in retrograde until January. So that's a whole other animal. Uranus, kind of makes things kind of turn upside down, things that you thought were going one way kind of shift and go another way. We'll see how that plays out over the rest of the year without the Mercury retrograde overlay over top of it. I don't think it'll feel as intense as it has with the other things going on, but we had eclipses and retrograding Mercury and Uranus retrograde, and then we had also a waning moon in there. A waning moon is when we have a full moon going down into a new moon, so we're getting less and less moonlight each day. And a waxing moon is when we have a new moon, and we're getting more and more moonlight each night, and that's a waxing moon. So the waxing moon is generally easier to deal with because it's expansive and, the tide's coming in, if you will. The waning moon is, kind of pulls, it's not the manifesting energy. It's not really for that. It's really more of a clearing and letting go kind of an energy. So tomorrow we have a full moon. And tomorrow's full moon is supposed to be quite a powerful full moon in Pisces and, very good full moon for manifesting, particularly good, more so than other full moons. I'm not going to get into every little detail about that, but, if you're going to do some moon work, tomorrow night's probably a good night to do that. Then we go into waning energy, right, because the moon is going to start to get less and less light. But you'll have, at least 3-4 good days of lots of moonlight. You'll have quite a while of lots of moonlight before it really goes into that half moon stage and starts to get much, much less. So I wouldn't worry too much about that because it's going to feel much lighter now that Mercury retrograde is over. Okay, so, and each day that we get further and further away and further out of the shadow of retrograde, Mercury retrograde, because it does have a few, days that linger and blah, 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 you'll feel lighter and lighter, and your fall harvest will begin, and off we go into the more active part of our season. Now, on top of all that other stuff that was going on in August, it was August, right? So August is the time of slowing down. It's kind of like the energy turns into a sloth. If you're on Facebook, there's a lot that people are obsessing on sloths, and they have all these sloth videos. But, the little animal is very slow. He just takes his time. And that's what August is about. So if you happen to be an entrepreneur and you're working your business and, or you're in a relationship or whatever, and you saw all kinds of crazy stuff happening, don't dismay. Yes, we can all take, our own energetic responsibility, which you hear me say a lot, especially my clients, my private clients hear me say that. When you have that much interplanetary activity, even the pros have their carpet ripped out from underneath them. I certainly did on many different levels, on many different things in August. So keep track of that. The way that you find out about these things is to Google it. Just Google Mercury in retrograde. You can Google Uranus, the meaning of Uranus in retrograde. You can, Google about eclipses, about full moons, about new moons. You might want to say the energetic meaning so that it's not just the, the official, NASA-related information about it. And, pick and choose your teachers wisely. There's one called Susan Miller on Astrology Zone. She's been around for a very long time, and she does a lot of pretty thorough astrological charts and things like that. But she always, I don't really pay too much attention to the daily astrology because if it's not really directed to your exact birth date and the exact time of day that you were born, it's it's going to be off. Why stress yourself out or not? However, she does cover all of these changing planetary things quite intensely and quite accurately. So she's a good one to check in with. So that's Susan Miller on astrologyzone.com. I don't get any payment. She doesn't even know I exist. I just like her site. So you can take that for what it's worth and give it a shot to keep track of your the union state of things hanging around us. All right. So today's show, are you maximizing your energetic frequency? Over the last, 2 years now, I guess, I shifted a lot from intuition as the sole topic of conversation and into working with our frequency, with how frequency works, our parallel realities, multidimensional manifesting energy, and how to, maximize those tools, because that's really how our energetic structure works. We operate in parallel realities. We have, I have lots of stuff out about this, but what I wanted to talk about today was about actually, first of all, I'll get a little bit into how it works, but I really want to talk about how do you maximize this, because one of the things we all are very much aware of our emotional state and our physical state, our mental state, right? It's something that, our whole society revolves around emotional and physical and mental. We hear about it all the time. How's your mental health? How's your emotional health? How's your physical health? Are you managing your physical body well? Are you managing your emotions well? Are you managing your mental state of mind well? Mental being, are you organized? Are you handling stress well? Emotional meaning, like, how are your feelings? Are you managing your anger, your happiness, your joy, your sadness, depression, all that type of thing? And, of course, we know physical. Are you eating your vegetables? Are you taking your supplements and whatnot? Are you exercising? I get enough sleep, et cetera, et cetera. The one piece, though, so you have three legs of the table, of a four-leg table, emotional, physical, mental. The leg that's missing for most conversations when we're talking about managing our overall comprehensive health is our energetic side. Our energetic side. That makes up a complete leg of the table. And if you eliminate it, you have a very weak table, okay? Because you literally are dealing with three legs instead of four. So if you can imagine that you have a four-leg table and one leg is missing, people sitting at one end of the table will be okay, as long as you don't put anything on the other end of the table, right, because there's no leg there, and it flips over. And this is what happens to people as they go throughout life and they don't know anything about energetic frequency. They put all of their energy into emotional, physical, and mental process. They lean very much into their logic and their rational minds and their mental analysis, their ability to analyze situations. They seek advice from each other. They focus on matter being physicality. They focus on their thoughts, on their mental states of mind, without engaging their energy and what, at least not consciously, because you can never really turn energy off. But if you're not consciously managing it, you can actually work very quickly against you, because wherever your focus goes, so does your energy. Wherever your focus goes, so does your energy. So if your focus is going to your own demise, constantly thinking about the worst case scenarios, let's prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and not really believing in the best, really having a lot of belief in the worst, et cetera, your energy follows that, and then things start to configure around that. Now, when you do, though, learn and educate yourself in frequency, in energetic frequency, and you put your frequency first, meaning that you lead with your frequency and then you let the other three follow behind it, you will find that the physical, mental, and emotional processes, number one, gets so much easier to deal with. Number two, there's a lot less confusion, a lot less need for analysis, a lot less need for control. And when you put your frequency first, you have the ability actually to do quite a bit of arranging of your circumstances and making choices, as opposed to feeling kind of like a victim, like circumstances are happening to you or coming at you. When you learn how to manage your frequency, and you do that with, with focus and care and attention and consistency, you will see that you can pretty nicely move yourself into what we call a flow, into a state of flow, where things come up and you can take them in stride. or you can even orchestrate certain scenarios to work out in a way that you desire. Now, that doesn't mean you can control other people. It doesn't mean that every single situation is going to turn out exactly like you programmed to have it turn out, because like it's a recipe, or okay, 1 + 1 has to equal 2. In frequency work, 1 + 1 could equal 17, which is actually way more efficient, because if 1 + 1 = 17, there's a lot in there that you didn't have to add, but you got the result anyway, right? So with frequency is very interesting because it's nonlinear. Now, in emotional and physical and mental capacities, we have a tendency to perceive them as linear. And, we have a tendency to say, I was happy, then I was sad, then I was angry, then I was happy again, but it's linear. We see it as a stair-step kind of a thing, going up the stairs and down the stairs, but we see it step by step by step. Same thing with the physicality and the mental work. What we're looking at, though, with frequency is where you get to look at an infinite number of possibilities and potentials, and then create an emotional code, an energetic, and emotions do work with frequency because the emotion is like the magnetic aspect of frequency. So your thought is the electrical aspect of the frequency, which is your intention. Your thoughts and your intentions are what we call electrical, and your emotions are what we call magnetic. So we have electromagnetic fields. And that's when we're working with parallels and multidimensional energy. And I talk about this in my classes. I'm not going to go too deeply into it on the radio show. However, when we have those two frequencies working together, electromagnetic, you put those two things together, when you start to program them deliberately, and you start to send out intentions of your desire, and then also practice emotional, you kind of do emotional rehearsals around what that intention contains emotionally. Like if you, let's say, want to buy a new house, and you put that intention there, and then when you do an emotional rehearsal about what it will feel like when you have that house. So you're happy, you're joyful, you feel warm and love, and friendship and camaraderie and all those types of things, safety. Then you put that kind of emotional cocktail on there. That's the magnetic energy that brings it forward from an energetic state into a physical state, and things start to configure. When we're talking about parallel realities, by sending out the intention, you're choosing a parallel. By having that emotional signature, the emotional code, along with the choice, you're not only choosing the parallel, but you're giving it the energy, the consistent energy for it to do what we call load in, where the parallel starts to configure and your life starts to look like what it is that you are aspiring for. Okay? So when we say infinite potentials and infinite possibilities, you hear this thrown around a lot, but a lot of times it's thrown around out of context, or it's very kind of trite. You see it on the meme and on Facebook or something. You say, everything's infinite possibilities. You make a choice. You make a choice. What does that really mean? Well, it means that everything that ever will exist already does exist, but it's in energetic form. So the version of you that's, a bag lady, and a version of you that's extraordinarily wealthy, and a version of you that's, extremely healthy, and a version of you that lives in India, and a version of you that lives in London, all exist simultaneously. And it goes into much more granular levels than that. I'm just using this as a broad stroke, start off the conversation example. All of those exist simultaneously. You pick what you want to experience. Now, you pick that with your focus, your primary focus, okay? It can get a little dicey if you're picking and then you're changing your mind a lot, okay? So if you're picking what you desire, but then you're doubting it, you're putting out an intention, a thought process, an electrical thought, an intention. I want, I have this house, or I desire this house. But if then it's covered in doubt. Oh, how will I do that? When can I have it? I don't know how I'd ever get the money. Oh, I never could have a place like that. Well, okay, I'm going to try to think positive about this. I'm going to hope for the best, but I'll plan for the worst. And you're sending the magnetic part. The magnetic part is a repellent. The emotion around it is a repellent. So you get that push me, pull you feeling. Push me, pull you. Push me, pull you. Push me, pull you. That's what you get. So what you want to do is smooth that out. And the way that we start to do that is to, first of all, recognize that frequency is one leg of our four-leg table. That's the most important leg. It's the leader leg. It's the leg that leads. When you manage the frequency, the emotional, physical, and mental all take care of themselves. When you manage the frequency, the emotional and the physical and mental start to take care of themselves, okay? And it's much easier. You get a lot more efficiency, and this is one of the most important things you'll hear me say. And you'll hear me say this is the most important thing quite a bit because it all feels important when you're teaching it. But, these people say, oh, Mari, why should I even bother worrying about energetic frequency? It's just mumbo-jumbo, whatever. Well, you always have your frequency going. It doesn't matter whether you're thinking about it or not, right? You're always putting out an energetic frequency, always. Every cell in your body is made up of energy, and what has even more energy is the space between the cells. That space between the cells is where your higher self resides, right? So your higher self, a lot of times people think, okay, I have a body that's finite, and then a soul within that body, and it comes in when I'm born and it leaves when I die. Well, it's bigger than that. You actually are a big, giant ball of energy that takes on, a portion of it takes on a body and inhabits that body. And so you have like a car that you're driving around for this particular incarnation, this particular lifetime. You also have, and so you have this big energy, this higher self navigating and helping you, the portion of you that's in the car that, kind of just has more of the physical faculties now. It still has its energetic relationship with its entirety, right? We still have our energetic relationship with our higher self. Why? Because we are a higher self. We are that being, that bigger version of ourselves. It's just that this part, the conscious part of us, our physically conscious portion of ourselves, is not necessarily physically tuned in to everything that higher self has, access to, because it's infinite. We couldn't handle the amount of information that the higher self handles in the physical mind. The physical mind is not wired that way to handle that much. However, and the frequency aspect is not intended either. And when you learn how to put your frequency first, meaning you're consulting with that higher self first, meaning that you're understanding how to manage your energetic communication system, your intuitive abilities, your telepathy, your channeling abilities, that whole energetic communication system that exists to support you in this energetic frequency aspect of yourself. When you kind of get educated in this and you get fluent in not only the language of your intuition, but also in the language of your frequency and how it works, everything becomes much more efficient. Now, I am not saying that you will not have hard days. I am not saying that you will be able to control everybody else's behaviors. What I'm saying is that you will be able to have a much more efficient response rate to things and a much more efficient load on yourself from an emotional and a physical and a mental standpoint. Because when you manage your frequency and you manage your energy first, okay, that's why you call it frequency first, everything starts to reflect those focused intentions. And it's like building a muscle. It's like starting to go to the gym. It's not something where you hear Mari talk about on the podcast, or you hear me talk about it on the radio show, or you dibble and dabble. You're not going to get the kind of results that you will when you take and you decide that you're going to engage your frequency the way you have been engaging your physicality, your mentality, and your emotional sides. Okay? When you decide to catch your frequency up with the rest, you will see, just like building any muscle, how fit you get and how much more efficient you are. And this is one of the most important skills that you can invest your time and energy in. And I think, and especially now, you hear me talk about it, year over year. You'll hear, if you listen to these shows, and there's hundreds of episodes of this show now, we've been on for 6 years, you will always hear me going back to what's the frequency doing, what's society doing, what's the grid doing, what's the energetic grid doing. All of this is super important, because as we go forward, there's a lot of shifts and a lot of huge changes, and you need to be nimble in your ability to respond to the various changes. Lots of changes on the horizon, lots of changes that we've already been through. You need to be able to be nimble. You cannot afford to have yourself be out of touch with frequency in our current political climate, in our current, global climate, in our current just personal climate, okay? Everybody's being affected by everything that's going on. And it's not a threat. It's not to make you scared or anything like that. But when you are in frequency alignment, when you are frequency mature, okay, when you are mature in your energetic frequency and in your abilities in that direction, you are much safer. You can move energy and matter to directions that will keep you even safer, that will head things off at the path, and you will be communicating with your higher self in a much more clear and conscious way. Now, you're always in touch with your higher self because you are your higher self, okay? But there is a language, there are systems, there are particular elements that you need to know about in order to maximize that relationship with your higher self and to tune into your full power bank. So it's kind of like when you get a computer and you get this big fancy, thing, and it has all these, bells and whistles, and you only do email. You don't go on the internet. You don't use Google. You only do email. You don't do Word. You don't do any of the Excel, any PowerPoint. You don't do anything. You just use email. And so then you think the computer isn't that important just for email. Email, you do that once a day, you're okay. But when you start to learn all the things that computer can do, just going into, getting a web browser, you get Google Chrome and somebody teaches you what the internet is and how to go on and ask any question and get answers and resources and tips and videos and blogs and other people's opinions, and then you connect with people on social media and all these things that shop and, on and on and on, and research and, and you get therapy and all kinds of things. You realize that, wow, I got the email and look at the power I got. Look at what I was able to connect with because I expanded my consciousness of what's out there, what this computer has to offer. So that's what we're talking about here with frequency, okay? And when you do go beyond the basics, getting the basics is one thing, but it's just like, telling a toddler, okay, yeah, sitting up is good, scooching around is okay, crawling is great. Crawling gets you from point A to point B. We're good. All right, the walking thing is handled because, standing up. Okay, that's a little bit more advanced. Put one foot in front of the other. Oh, that's more advanced. Do you stop the kid from okay, now it's time to run across the floor? Oh, we're good. You're good. Even once you know how to walk and you're an adult, you're going and you're getting on that treadmill, all of a sudden walking can take on a whole nother level, right? Get you from point A to point B, of course, but it can also help to, get calories off the body, build up stamina, build up cardiovascular strength, all these different things. So walking can be very, very beginner and it can be, very, very advanced. Obviously, when you put it in the advanced mode, you're a power walker, you're getting a lot of benefits from that. So it's the same thing with your frequency. It is really, really important to develop this as far as you possibly can. One of the ratios that they talk about a lot in the channel space is 17 seconds. 17 seconds of energetic work is equivalent to 2 hours of physical work. I think it was 3 hours of actual physical work. So you're doing your frequency work is really super efficient. right? You can really cut down so much of the other stuff. All right, so let's get into how to program your frequency for better results. Now, there's there's lots of, I'm going to just, for the sake of, the show, we're going to talk just a little bit about some of the things you can do. So a real simple 60-second application of this, and I highly suggest that, you get more education in it, but for the sake of, just to give this a try. What I think is two things that's important. One is that you start to notice, and whenever I work with very, very beginning clients, we talk about noticing. Just starting to pay attention to frequency helps a lot. So as you're driving, noticing, are people letting me in the lane today? Are they, letting me out of the parking lot? Are they, are they cutting me off? Are they, slamming on the brakes? Are they road raging around me? It's interesting because you can tell what your frequency is doing by the way your environment is reacting to you. Because really, wherever you go, your energy it precedes you. Right? Your energy shows up first, and then your physicality shows up behind it. And so your field is already reacting to you before you even get in the room, because your energy goes out. In my book, I talk about the bullseye of energy, but it goes out, hundreds of feet. So it precedes you. And so as you're driving, there's a whole lot of auric fields mixing on that road. And one of the things I've noticed as I've done this work over many, many years is that if I do things like start stubbing my toe or running into things, or, people start cutting me off, slamming on the brake, these types of things, I stop and I take a deep breath and I say, okay, let me settle my frequency down, because there's something that's off in me. We talk about energetic responsibility, and it's really important to understand that that we are responsible for everything going on in our world. Now, people get angry with me. I've had people hang up with me on private sessions because they said, well, looks like that was not such a great choice. I get it. I get how infuriating it can feel that, you have somebody who's super negative around you and you're not doing anything. You feel very victimized. But just the idea that you're perceiving it as victimization is putting that into your field, is putting that into your frequency. And if you're doing that with a lot of emotion, you're magnetically programming the frequency to match that emotion and that thought process and bring you more of it. It is very neutral. It is very black and white. It's very literal. Just like the computer, when you type in, I love candy, if you put in I love dandy, even though you meant candy, the computer will show that you put in I love dandy. It does not say candy. It doesn't correct, of course on the Apple phones and whatever, they try to do that horrible autocorrect, but you know how often it gets it wrong, right? And you still have to be very clear with what you do. It's the same thing with your frequency, and that's why people, when you hear, coaches and whatnot talk about, you have to take personal responsibility, and even in religious circles, they talk about, I am cause. I know Michael Beckwith, when I had him on my show, he said many years ago, he used to say, oh, I am cause, I am cause. And what did that mean? I am the cause of what's happening in my world. And as you smooth out, your world smooths out as well. So to program yourself so that you're getting ready for, various experiences in your life, or whether you know about these experiences or not, it's important to take time to center yourself, to take time to just step into 3 power centers. And one of those power centers is your breath. Your breath is what energetic information travels on. It travels on the molecules of oxygen. And as you inhale and exhale from an energetic perspective, it obviously has its physical and mental and emotional components, but from an energetic perspective, your breath is a source of messages. It's a carrier source. Okay, so as you breathe, it fills every cell with wisdom. It turns on the wisdom that's already housed within your cells. It sends intention. It clears. It cleanses. It does a lot of things. Your breath has a very high purpose, a lot of purposes in your frequency-based world. Okay, so you want to engage your breath. and you're going to close your eyes. You're going to take a nice deep breath. Okay? And as you do, as you inhale and as you exhale, you are engaging the energetic information to come into your cellular structure and give you an awareness of communication, awareness of message or direction, and then that translates into your intuition, that translates into your thoughts, and you start to feel, first it translates into feeling, and then most of the time we can articulate that into thought, and that's where we then take an action, right? So you're going to close your eyes, you're going to take a nice deep breath, and you're going to just sit and breathe deeply if you just do it for 60 seconds, you're engaging frequency, especially with the intention, I'm going to engage my frequency now. And for 60 seconds, you just do a frequency check-in for 60 seconds. Take a nice deep breath, and you can either ask a question or you can just say, I'm going to get centered. And you can even see two columns, one on the right and one on the left, and just see as you're breathing those two columns coming to center and connecting. And what you're doing is you're connecting in with your higher self. You're connecting in. So your physical self is on one side and your energetic self is on the other. And this is just so your mental mind buys in. As you're closing your eyes, you're taking your deep breath. Just see those two columns. You can see them as two columns of light or just two columns. See them just coming together slowly as you breathe, and then connecting. And so that you have one column. You can see that as a column of light, iridescent light, and you continue to breathe deeply. And then you can ask your question, okay, what do I need to know most right now about this particular situation? And just continue to breathe deeply. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Now, a lot of people think, I have to do this thing and I should get the exact answer at the exact minute and control the situation exactly at that time. People do this with meditation all the time. It's not how it works. When you do that alignment, when you pull in those two sides, and this is that's actually the first time I've ever described this alignment like this, so this is hot off the presses. When you do that alignment, though, as you bring it together, this is just a 60-second exercise to get yourself balanced, to get yourself connected in, to get out of mental loops, to get out of spirals and all that. If let's say you're in a bad situation at work or in a relationship that seems like it's, kind of going off the rails a little bit, or, even in a grocery store line where you're feeling frustrated or you're sitting in traffic feeling frustrated, just want to take 60 seconds. You don't want to close your eyes in traffic, use your own judgment, obviously, but the breath, very, very important. Even if you can't close your eyes, taking that breath, taking a few deep breaths with the intention of getting your frequency in alignment, seeing two columns of light coming together into one. That would be like your crown chakra, so you're kind of getting all of that frenetic energy to all, spin in the right direction and in one direction. That's your 60-second check-in, frequency check-in, okay? Now, once you do that, you just breathe, maybe 10 breaths, however long as you can time yourself with your phone, see how many breaths you get in 60 seconds, however many breaths that is. And then you can either ask a question, like, what do I need to, I know for myself, it's like, what do I need to know most right now about the situation for it to resolve, easily or effortlessly, or for things to work out, in the way that would make me extraordinarily happy, delighted, or whatever. There's all different ways to ask those types of questions, but you can ask a question. You can also just ask for peace or for centering or for a sense of reassurance or for clarity or for joy or for balance or for patience or for temperance. All kinds of things you can ask when you're doing that little programming, okay? Again, this is a very, very simple, probably the simplest, most basic thing. There are plenty of other advanced things that I go into, I teach and all that, but this one is for, getting yourself aware. Awareness is everything, okay? Now, the other tool to use after you do that little 60-second breathing and focus and question, when you come up out of that, if you can, drink some water. Okay, I always happen to have a bottle of water with me because I'm always working out. But drink some water with intention to expand your frequency, because water is an expansion tool. It expands. It amplifies. So as you drink water, not only does it, do its things for your physical and mental and emotional health, it also supports you in your frequency health and health of your frequency by amplifying. So you'll get your intuition volume will turn up when you're drinking more water. You'll be able to understand and perceive messages that you're getting. Your intuition will turn up higher. You'll be able to, you'll attract more signs and symbols and synchronicities if you're drinking a lot of water. If you're dehydrated, it's harder. So it doesn't mean your frequency ever turns off, but it's nowhere near as in tune as it is when you are hydrated. One of the other things you can do is to, if you can, do this 60-second little exercise. Bring a bottle of water, get yourself outside, go to the park, hang on to a tree and do it. Go to the ocean or to a lake or a body of water or pond, whatever, floats your boat. Even a fountain, just moving water. If that's what you have access to, get to the water. Water, like I said, amplifies when you take it into your body, but it also amplifies when you sit next to it or you're in its proximity. So I know for myself, when I get over this in August, oh my gosh, I had so many things going. It was so berserk. And I would just drag myself out to the beach. I happened to live, 5 minutes, 10 minutes from the beach. And I would just drag myself out there. And even if I didn't have the energy to get out of the car, and I'd sit, I'd just open all the windows and open the sunroof, and I would just sit, and I would just take in, I would just be with the ocean. Sometimes you can't even think straight. You're just going to sit there and you're just going to be with it, and you just ask for clarity or just ask for stability, just a stabilizer, just stabilize me, get me, balance. And so that's something you can do. So closing your eyes, taking your deep breath, working for 60 seconds, asking a question, drinking your water, that's a really good, very powerful, less is more with frequency, very powerful exercise to do to program yourself, okay, for better results in whatever you're doing. You can do this before you're going into a meeting that you're anticipating. You can do this as you're going to sleep. You can do it any time of day. Now, one of the best times to do any kind of frequency work, whether it's this or the more advanced work that I teach, is the morning. Why? It's between the hours of about 3 and 7 in the morning, the veil to energy is the thinnest. It's just the most potent time for you to connect and for your mental mind and your physical body and emotional stuff, all that stuff to be out of the way. Okay, it's also a time where, all the powers that be that are speaking to you have the most activity. So the veils are the thinnest, and the access to all this information is the highest during that time. You'll notice that if I know my advanced girls and guys, when they're doing the deep meditation work that we do in the advanced mastermind classes that I'm teaching, when they start in the morning, they get a tremendous amount of thrust by comparison to doing something at night after you're really tired, or midday where you have to stop and start and all that, you have all kinds of interruptions. It's better to do it at any point than to not do it at all. But if you can start your frequency work, even if just for a little while in the morning, you're going to get a much further reach with it if you start in the morning. So that's definitely the best time to get it done. And then there comes the question of how do we keep this frequency high throughout the day, even when we're focused on other things. And there's a couple of things that you can do, several things that you can do. That I would say my top 3 picks for what you can do is, one is do several of these frequency alignment sessions a day. Again, that was a real basic one in our new Frequency Booster Toolkit, which comes out on Thursday. I've included it's called How to Do a Basic Alignment Session. It's an actual MP3 that talks about working with your parallel realities and doing alignment sessions that way. And then, there's some other stuff too. So that's, more advanced. But for this, 3 best ways to keep your frequency high throughout the day. Do that little 60-second check-in 4 times a day. So One is like, you might do it when early in the morning. You can even go back to sleep after you do it. That's what I like to do, is I do my frequency work and then I go back to sleep, because then my dreams are even better. Like there's even more stuff that works out in the dream state. But, a lot of people don't have that luxury, so that's fine. You can also, just pop into the bathroom or something during the day and just take that 60 seconds and just, or get out to your car if you're at work during lunchtime. So you might want to do it with each meal, right? So because it's a minute, right? And you want to just check in. And what that does, remember that 17 seconds of energetic work is equivalent to 3 hours of physical work. So when you do take that time to check in, you are covering yourself for quite some time from that 60 seconds, just 60 seconds. As we get more advanced, I do stuff for an hour in the morning. I know most of my advanced girls are doing that now too. They're up to an hour. It's something that you build up to. Okay, I have other people, friends and whatnot, who are now doing a lot of what I've taught them, and they're up to half hour, 45 minutes, or 20 minutes, or whatever. It's like it said, it's like going to the gym. It's like personal training, personal frequency training, right? So you're going to build up to it. Once you get into that hour range, you're really, really rocketing through. I mean, these girls are channeling and getting all kinds of messages and downloads and all kinds of amazing things happening in the world, because they're really strengthening that vibrational muscle, right? So it's not swinging wildly throughout. And so as you're trying to maintain that, one of the other things you could do definitely throughout the day, again, it's going to sound redundant, but drinking water, checking in with yourself, every 3-4 hours, or with each meal. That's a great way to try it. And doing that 60-second alignment. Then drinking water in between keeps you high as far as your resonant energy is concerned. Taking deep breaths as you go, again, keeps the energy flowing, keeps that intuitive, energetic, channeling kind of information coming in. You're getting your downloads of aha moments. You're getting downloads of things that you should try or how you should do something. You're getting those, like a lot of times when we go in the shower, we get these great, or run on the treadmill or run in the woods or whatever, you get these great, like, oh my gosh, I got so much insight. It's unbelievable. What are those insight? In-sight. It's sight from within, right? You're getting clarity from within. Why do you think that word came from? Okay, which as you take in those deep breaths, as you inhale that steam in your shower, you're going, walking through the woods or sitting at the, what's the first thing you do when you get to the beach or to that body of water or to that mountain range or whatever is, right? You just breathe in and you let it out. And that just, as you breathe in, especially in that, around all that amped up energy and your higher self, it's like, all those other physical, mental faculties settle, and your body takes in that big breath, that big gulp of air, and your frequency receptors turn on, and zing, 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 and you get that whoop, whoop, whoop. It's almost like harmonics. Very, very advanced concept, but you get that harmonic kind of energy. You start to engage with your fields of energy. My classes, we talk about electromagnetic fields, and we talk about how to work with those. That's the more this new stuff now that I'm doing. I've been started teaching over the summer, and now I'm going into the fall and into next year with it. It goes beyond the parallels, way beyond the parallels now even. Who would have thought, right? Into more of this multidimensional, this really dynamic multidimensional energy, and you start to work with electromagnetic fields and the pulsation of that frequency, and how to your frequency with those fields, and how to really metabolize your world and materialize things from frequency into matter. It's very, very powerful, alchemy work. I put out a class, promotion for a class called Personal Alchemy over the last month for advanced folks. So if you're one of those people, you can send me an email, support@ahamomentsinc.com, and I can send you information about the advanced class. But we're going to talk about that. It's these expanded electromagnetic fields, these expanded frequencies, so that you can access this stuff. This is not airy-fairy stuff. This is not new agey, let's kumbaya with the universe. That's not what this is. This is how your frequency works, okay? This is the same as learning how to walk, the same as learning how to manage your emotions and how to, handle your rage and all that. It's the same as, you're, getting organized and focused and willpower, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff you do in your mental, physical, and emotional worlds that just seems like, natural things that you do just to survive and live a good life. That's what this work is, for your frequency. Now, one other thing that you can do, and I'm going to take a question or two, is you can find the best you can find the best choice. You can ask yourself in each thing that you're considering, what's the best choice for me to take right now? Okay? And as you do that, what's going to make me the happiest? You can ask, what's going to make me the happiest right now? What's going to feel the lightest right now? What's going to make me the most joyful right now? What's going to just feel like the most ease right now? And sometimes, say, I know I have to have a kind of a hard conversation with someone. And I thought about having that conversation today, and then I said, you know what, I have too much. I'm starting the show again today. I had too much going on, too much on my plate. And it just felt really heavy, and I felt like I wasn't going to get through it with power and centeredness. So I just said to the person, I said, you know what, tomorrow's a better day. And that's what I was led to do. I checked in first. I said, what do I need to know most right now about this situation, this conversation? What's going to give us the highest and greatest outcome for everybody involved? And it's not today. Today's just not that day. Tomorrow's a better day. Just do it tomorrow. So I put it off till tomorrow. Now, so that wasn't procrastination. That was checking in. And it's also sending frequency first. It's saying, okay, well, today there's a lot of churn. And, and I have to work with clients, all kinds of things. So today was a lot of churn. So today was the day that I just I let it be. And I said, okay, I'll leave that for tomorrow. Okay? So you can batch working with your frequency as well. Just like you would say, okay, today is not the day I'm going to run to the dry cleaners, into the pharmacy, into the bank. I'll do that on Wednesday because the kids don't have to, get out of school early, or they go to school and they stay in the after program to have more time. Whatever those reasons are, right? You do this with your mental or physical world all the time. Well, you can also do it with your frequency. Today may not be that day to have the conversation with the boyfriend or the girlfriend about, what are we, or any of this, Saturday might be a better day. Who knows? It might be the planets are different. You'll get the intuitive hit if you ask, right? If you ask. And that's what I mean when I say sending your frequency first. Your frequency always precedes you, okay? It always precedes you. So getting educated on that is super, super important. So on Thursday, we'll have our quiz. So you can make your own assessment about how well you're using your frequency and how well you're maximizing your frequency. And also you will have your ability to get our new frequency booster toolkit. And I put together this little kit, which will be fun. It's actually a 2-part mini class on the basics that we were just talking about, a little bit more expanded. You'll get the recording of the vibration, how to do a basic vibrational alignment session with the parallels, and then also you're going to get, and this is different than the other package we had been doing, you will get the first full-length class of my Quantum Leap with Your Parallel Realities course. So it's an actual full-length class. It's the first of four classes. So you get the full class. It's not edited, abridged, or anything like that. So you can test drive what a full master class feels like. And then you'll get a coupon for, I think, $50 off of the rest of the class. So if you love the class and then you want to continue and get the rest of the audios, because it's all audio, of course, then you'll be able to get a big discount on that. And the whole little kit is like $11. So even though it's worth like $250, it's all on the page when we send you the links and everything. you'll be able to test drive all of it for $11 and just get you going. I think it's really, really important. This is my intention with that particular package. Is there's two things that are really important. One is that you assess your own frequency and start to get fluent in your frequency work. That's just super important, that you see where you're at and know, okay, I'm at this level and I need to get more education to get to where I really want to be, where this is a really natural thing for me. And then going beyond that and starting to create with it, to make choices and to really design with, do frequency design with your life and with your circumstances. And then number two is to give you an opportunity to try different things that I offer, just so that, because a lot of people, they see, something's a $250 class or $497 class and things like that. If, it stops them from wanting to give it a try. So I want you guys to get that exposure. We're going to be coming out with some really, really good classes over the next, year. And we have a whole, just huge programs coming out. I've been working so hard, you have no idea. That's why I was quiet for so many months with the show. I had to sort of pull in and channeled so much stuff. My ears are falling off. So this is just your first, blush, and so you can get some time in there to sort things out and start to get your feet wet. And then we're going to have some really fun things going forward. So let's just take a quick caller. I'm going to have to make this quick. I haven't been on the show for a while, so my pacing and my timing talking is a little off today, but that's okay. We'll get back on track here. So we have Debbie in Louisiana. Hi, Deb.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. What's your question?
I like to believe I have a high frequency sometimes, but there's she's actually my manager, who's really, really negative. And I try not to let it seep in, but I just think the amount of time that I spend by her is starting to affect me. And I'm wondering if you can help me with that. Or will we eventually repel each other? Like, will she go or I go? Or seems like we make headway, and then I feel like I just fooled myself all along,
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a matter of it's interesting. People come into our lives for a variety of reasons. She could very well be a catalyst for you. And I've noticed that when I start to notice people that way and see, okay, I'd ask a different question. Instead of, is she, and this is actually managing with your frequency first, is to start asking various questions. One of the questions is, and you're asking the question, is she going to go or am I going to go? Like, why is she doing this to me? What did I do to deserve this? All those kinds of questions, which just give the universe the opportunity to give you kind of, disempowering answers. One of the better questions to ask is what do I need to know most about this situation that would help it to clear up or dissolve completely?
Okay, that sounds great.
What do I need to know most about this? What do I need to perceive about this situation at this time that that will allow it to continue with total ease or dissolve completely? For my highest good, or expands me further. You can play with whatever those words are for you, whatever means well for you. But what that does is it sets the frequency off in a different direction, because it comes from a powerful place, right? And it's a place of willingness to look at something, as opposed to when you get into a negative situation, you're so busy shielding yourself and thinking, oh, she's toxifying my energy. Oh, she's going to ruin me. Oh. And she's in the control, and she's your boss, and who knows what, your manager, God knows what. So you're feeling under her and feeling like she's threatening your physical, mental, and everything, all your other, aspects.
Right.
And so that's where that can really start to spin the magnetic aspect of that electromagnetic field we're talking about against you, right? Because you're just amplifying that victimizing thing, right? But when you ask that question, what do I need to know most right now, that if I knew it would shift this, you'd be amazed at how quickly it shifts in your favor. So I hope that's helped. I'm going to have to jump off just because we have to wrap the show, but I wanted to give you that little tip, and hopefully it does work very well. I use it myself all the time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Have a great night. Thanks for calling in. Okay, so I will say I will never ask you guys to do anything that I have not done myself. So everything that I'm talking about, I use in my own life and show to hundreds and hundreds of clients and students and whatnot, and it really does work. So I hope that you've been inspired and that you will join us same time, same place next week. Just check your inbox. I'll be sending all that new stuff along, and I look forward to seeing you next week. All right? So have a great rest of your evening, and take care.